Welcome to My Money Mindset podcast, where we explore how a healthy mindset is the foundation for financial success. Each week, we delve into mindset hacks and practical strategies to help you enhance your income, help you make more appropriate investments for yourself, and to improve your overall financial well-being. Join us on this journey to transform your financial future by transforming your mindset. Please note that the information provided on this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute as personal, financial or health advice. It has been prepared without considering your individual objectives, financial situation or life needs. Before making any financial or health decisions, you should consult with a qualified professional or financial advisor to ensure the information aligns with your specific circumstances. So let's begin and enjoy this journey as each episode teaches us on how to improve our overall mindset that overall improves our financial success. Hi everybody, today's episode is about going a guarantor or using a guarantor to get a home loan or property loan. And how a guarantor can help you buy your property a lot sooner, what it's all about, what's entailed, and also if you're thinking about buying a property in the near future and want to find out what are the risks involved, that's what we're going to discuss today. So basically, a guarantee is can be most of the time with common lenders, and I'll just speak in general sense here. It's a family member that has sort of sufficient equity in their home that can be used as a security guarantee for the new loan for the person that you're going to guarantee for. So for instance, let's call mum and dad trying to help their daughter or son buy a new home or get into the property market. The children only have, call it 5% deposit as a reasonable deposit saved. They're both working. They basically, the kids go for a loan. They get approval for a certain amount of loan, but then the parents go and use their own property as security to add to the kids' loan. So what it means is they're utilizing two securities and to get the loan for the kids. Now, most of the time, the person providing the security, you call it the parent, is known as the guarantor, and the guarantor doesn't give the person who's requiring the money or the lender any money. However, they will have to accept the obligations that are associated with entering into a guarantee, right? So basically, the person providing the security doesn't really have to give them any money, they just give the security. So there's no need to exchange money on the guarantor's behalf. Now, the guarantor's security doesn't have to cover the entire loan amount, just a portion of it, which is usually the amount to help reduce the loan value ratio down to a respectable 80%. The reason why 80% is the magical number, or 20% deposit, it's to avoid lender's mortgage insurance, or LMI as they're known in the industry. So the guarantee is limited to this amount. So the LVR on the new purchase has to be at least 80%. So the loan to value ratio, 80%. Example, if you're buying a $1 million property, at least 200,000 of the value that the guarantor and the combination of guarantor's security and the savings has to be equal to 20 or over 20% type of thing, yeah. And basically from there, if the security guarantee reduces the LVR to 80, they won't be paying that lender's mortgage insurance. So it sort of helps the person looking to buy a property get their property sooner and not have to wait for the property to keep rising in value before they can actually buy a property. So in other words, it cuts to the chase and enables them to buy into the property market sooner than later. So parents often do this for their kids simply because it enables them to start the future. However they want to pay the guarantor back in the future or whatever, that's on a different agreement. But most of the time what happens is the guarantor will provide their security to a portion and then go from there. All right, so the easiest way to explain a family security guarantee is to look at an example, right? Which, just for the simplicity of it all, I'll do an example that doesn't sort of have all the transaction costs like stamp duty and conveyancing fees, etc., etc. So I'll just say that, let's say your kids want to buy a property for 500,000 or thereabouts. So let's say 500,000, and you, as your kids are being assessed and has enough income to service a 5,000 loan. In other words, your kids are able to service that $500,000 loan. They've saved about 25,000, which is about 5% of the purchase price of 500,000. They will need a deposit of 20%, excluding the transaction costs, of course. But this 20% is to avoid the lender's mortgage insurance, LMI. 20% of the 500,000 lender assured value would be 100,000. So you'd need to save another 75 grand if you needed to save that, right? So what that means is, if 20% is required, remember we're not including stamp duty or conveyancing fees for the argument's sake, but in normal instances, your kids would have to, or the borrowers would have to come up with 20% to avoid lender's mortgage insurance. The guarantor in this instance should have a home valued at, let's call it 800,000 for argument's sake. They can offer about 75 grand of the equity in the house as security for the loan. So it would complete the 20% required to avoid lender's mortgage insurance in the purchase for the children, right? Now, what you've got to remember that, this is to watch out for, could the guarantor lose their house? In the worst case scenario where the guarantor was unable to pay, the lender has the right to sell the guarantor's property to recover the limited guarantee amount. So in other words, let's say for instance, worst case scenario, you borrow for this property of 500,000. The parents go as guarantor to provide the sufficient amount. So the kids put in 5%, the parents put in 15% of the capital from their house, and basically the loan goes south. Or this look, very, very seldom. I don't think in my 20 odd years, or have never seen this happen. We catch on to it pretty quick if this was going to happen anyway. But the worst case scenario, if it does, so for instance, the kids, whatever happens, can't pay the loan, life happens, and the bank are able to sell the property, but they're unable to sell the property to recover their costs, as in the loan amount, then the balance can proceed to the guarantor, where the guarantor can either give them the money that is short from the sale of the property, the kids' property, and if they don't have the savings, then obviously the bank has all the right to do so, which is all scripted in the loan obligation of going guarantor. So you've really got to understand your obligations. It can really create a lot of family tension, right? So I suppose going guarantor, the banks have made it pretty foolproof and watertight in regards to making sure that they protect themselves and the borrower, of course, and the guarantor. But this does create family tension, so it's important that the borrower and the guarantor carefully consider whether the guarantor arrangement would be suitable for them. Speak to your broker or the bank when it comes to this type of stuff. Make sure that you really have your numbers watertight. Make sure not just the guarantor, but the borrower, everyone is all over it. They understand the obligations. Quite often, the guarantor or the parents are very they're hesitant to be a guarantor because they don't know what it entails. But that being said, education is key here once again. So once you learn the fundamentals of going as a guarantor, it's pretty straightforward. But obviously, with all due respect, everyone has to be, including your broker, has to understand what the implications are so he can or she can relay it to you guys as the guarantor and the borrower, and understand or hopefully you understand everything that's going on with it, right? So it's very important that all the conditions and obligations of the family guarantor is known before you go signing anything. For this reason, it's probably essential that the guarantors seek legal advice before entering to any guarantee agreement. I would advise that anywhere, and to make sure everyone is all over it. You do speak to solicitors, conveyancers, accountants, everyone that's all over it. It's a massive thing, but it's also a very good thing for the kids to be able to jump into the property market. So it's just one of those discussions you want to have, but make sure that you're all over it and it's anxiety free, right? So to sum up, basically a family guarantee could help you buy a property sooner without paying the cost of lender's mortgage insurance, which can be astronomical these days. I've seen lender's mortgage insurance just jump from higher to higher in costs. It's ridiculous. Sometimes, just to give you an idea, I've seen lenders mortgage insurance as high between 20 and 30 odd thousand. That's a lot of money, right? So if your kids are looking to buy a property, or kids, if you're looking to buy a property at the 500 mark, or a bit of land and then construction, and you think, well, look, I'll just bear the cost of LMI, remember that money, if you are able to get a guarantor, it will save you that LMI. But if you're not, that LMI has to be compensated along with, I mean, there are first home owners grants and stuff in Australia. Take advantage of them and stuff. Sometimes with the first home owners grant and the stamp duty savings can sometimes be an advantage, but quite often what we were finding many years ago that when the government grants were getting handed out, simply the developers were taking the money and increasing the price because they knew that they could get away with it with other properties under 600 odd thousand. Now, that's a very, very generic situation, but that being said, it pushed the prices of property up again, and it sort of was counterintuitive and didn't allow a lot of people to get in the property market, simply because developers were then increasing the costs of the construction and so on and so forth, which in turn would increase the developers when they were selling off their land or residential land, right? Also, to sum up, it just helps you purchase a home without using all the 20% deposit. So in other words, it avoids you having to save all that. The guarantor offers the equity in their property as additional security against the loan, right? So there's two properties involved in the purchase of the new property, if that makes sense, right? Guarantors should always seek legal advice and understand their obligations before entering a guarantee. So I really hope that you understand that and it makes all sense. If it doesn't, look, please reach out. There's a number of times, there's so many different scenarios, what ifs. Quite often parents are torn between the kids and the siblings. They may want to buy the home together or do a combination thing. There's so many things you can do with finance and gearing of property, so it's always important to make sure that you pressure test scenarios and don't always just accept whatever you're given. Make sure that you do all your research, your due diligence, and find out exactly what is entailed and what's required as guarantor. I hope this helps, guys. In regards to the anxiety part, look, it is just another part of going through the notion of buying a property. I always emphasise, and I can't emphasise it enough, education is key in all this. Your team, as in your solicitors, your brokers, your accountants, and everyone else that helps you handle these type of situations, make sure that they're all over it and they can provide substantial information in regards to it. Really hope this helps. Please share it on to anyone that you believe that would get a benefit from it, and feel free to let me know if there's anything else that I could talk on the episodes. Thanks, guys.